Back to Night Talk, we proudly welcome Greg Mortenson to the program, co-founder and director of the Central Asia Institute. He went from climbing mountains to building schools in Pakistan and Afghanistan. And his account of that journey turned into a critically acclaimed #1 bestseller, Cups of Tea, 3 Cups of Tea, which is out in paperback and has been awarded some very impressive prizes along the way, honors indeed. It's a pleasure to have you here. This is such an extraordinary story, both the story itself and your story surrounding how this came to be a #1 bestseller that spent weeks and weeks and weeks on top of the list. How do you account for where your life has come?
Well, thanks, Mike. I grew up in Tanzania for 15 years. My parents went over as teachers, and in Africa, I learned a proverb that says, if you educate a boy, you educate an individual. If you educate a girl, you educate a community. And a lot of it, my background is based on watching my father toil for many years to get a hospital built on Mount Kilimanjaro. And coming back to the States, a little bit difficult adjustment. What really led me to go to Pakistan was the death of my youngest sister, Krista, from severe epilepsy in '92. So I decided to climb K2, the world's second highest mountain, in her honor. And from that...
and one of the toughest mountains in the world to scale.
One of the more difficult, dangerous mountains. And I aspired to climb K2 because it was a significant challenge. And went there in '93, didn't quite get to the top. And coming down, after 5 days, I stumbled into a village where I saw 84 children sitting in the dirt. So I promised them I'd build a school. They wanted some help, and that's what really led to this endeavor now. I've been working 15 years in Pakistan and Afghanistan, very remote areas, to help promote education and build schools.
So you went into this even before the tragedy in your family. Your family had some extraordinary experiences and a worldview, one might say.
Right, and I come from both my grandparents and my parents are all educators, traveled a lot. My father spent a couple of years also traveling in Central Asia in the late '60s, so we're very familiar with. I grew up in a kind of having a global perspective on life.
When they said yes, we'd like you to build a school for us, at that point, did you have any idea how you were going to do it?
Well, I had no clue what I was going to do, and at the time I was a graduate student in neurophysiology. I was working as a trauma nurse to earn an income, and I had to raise $12,000. And so what I did is I came back to the States, and I hand-typed 580 letters to celebrities and movie stars, and I only got one check back from Tom Brokaw, the newscaster, for $100. And then I sold my car, and I sold my climbing gear, and the next spring I went to my mother's elementary school in Wisconsin, and a 4th grader named Jeffrey came up to me and said, I have a piggy bank at home, and I'll help you raise money to build a school. And 6 weeks later, they raised 62,340 pennies. That's really what got this going. And it's not that a penny's so important, but what education does is give a child hope. And I also see that on a global scale. The U.S. promised 20 years ago we give 1% of GDP to foreign aid, and last year was actually the highest year. It's only 0.16%, a sixth of 1 penny per dollar. And you know, obviously our private sector, we're the most giving, philanthropic people on the planet, but I think our government should also
1/10 of what it said it was going to commit.
Commit to what it promises.
So you get the money. I want to talk politics, too, because you also had an interesting encounter with Musharraf just before he left office. We're going to get to that. I want to throw that out there so the audience knows just how connected you are to that place and to those people. You get the money. You still got to go back and put this together. I mean, how do you figure out what kind of structure is necessary, or what kind of space you're going to occupy? What kind of curriculum? Who's going to teach? How do you answer those questions? It
took 3 years. And first was the building. When I got back to Pakistan in '95, the village chief is Haji Ali. He's a very stout, squat man with a silver beard, kind of gruff man. He was very surprised I'd come back, and I brought the school supplies, but he said, you know, son, if we really want to build a school, we have to build a bridge first. So I hadn't calculated that in the equation, so I had to come back to the States, raise $10,000 more, and then in '95 we built this 284-foot span bridge. But even after 3 years, we hadn't gotten very far. And then one day the village chief, Haji Ali, told me, you know, if you really want to get a school built, you have to sit down and be quiet and let us do the work. He took my plumb line, receipts, and records and locked them up. He came back and said, everything will be fine, don't you worry. I was horrified, and then 6 weeks later the school got built. And then he brought me a ledger that had accounted for every single rupee. It was the old British accounting system with thumbprints, and so they obviously knew better than what I did. Even you can apply that on the macro scale.
Well, let's do that in a moment, because we have to take our first break right now, and I want to talk about the expansion, because you have dozens and dozens of schools that you have built since then, what lessons we've learned, and what it says about American relations with that part of the world and those people. Back once again, Greg Mortenson, 3 Cups of Tea. We're coming right back.